Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to today's presentation, Guru Nanak, the Revolutionary. We are so excited for you to join us today as we explore a little more about Guru Nanak Sahib, as well as give you a bit of taste of the kinds of conversations we have at Sidak. Sidak is starting for us in July, on July 23rd, and applications are currently open. And we're hoping that today's presentation, as I mentioned, will give you not only a glimpse of the kinds of content that we cover, but also the sorts of discussions that we have. We have quite an amazing lineup for you today with Jaspreet Kaur, one of our members of our admissions committee, as well as one of our instructors at Civic in the past, as well as a Civic alumni. We also have Inni Kaur, who's our creative director with Sikhi, also a very integral part of Civic programming as well as presenting, and Santbir Singh, who's also an alumni and a presenter, and also now on staff at Sikhi as well. And myself, my name is Jaspreet Kaur, and I will be your host today. I am also an alumni of the Civic program from 2014, and we'll get to share little bits of our journeys as well. But before we begin with all of that, I'd like to just go over a bit of the shape of the day and kind of give you a bit of an overview of what to expect today. So we're starting off this morning with our first session, but before we get into our session, we will be covering and reviewing, as we do always at Civic, our Hookum, because that is what drives what we do as Sikhs. So before we start the session, Santbir Singh will lead us through a reflection of our Hookum from this morning. Then we will move into our first session with Jaspreet Kaur, who is Guru Nanak, and session number 2 with Inni Kaur on shifting paradigms. And then we will get into our session 3, which is the Q&A and reflection with Santbir Singh. And we're hoping to close around 1:30 Eastern time. So a little bit about civic culture. So the main thing about Civic when we're there is, and including for today's presentation, is that this is a very safe space. And so Civic is a lot about reflection. It's a lot about learning and unlearning. It's a lot about being able to share your ideas and viewpoints. And so for that, we all come from different areas of the world and different walks of life. And so that we ask that you be mindful of the viewpoints that you're sharing that might be different from someone else, and that we are open to all viewpoints. But this is for you. This is for you to reflect. And so just keep that in mind as you hear possibly other questions, or you might be hearing some viewpoints that might not be aligning with yours. Questions are more than welcome. And sometimes we're afraid to ask those questions. Civic is really a place where you can ask that question that you haven't been able to ask before. So please feel free to ask any questions that you'd like. And above all, enjoy. This is going to be quite the discussion. The presentations are going to spark a lot of thought and a lot of thought, and as well as some kind of new ideas in some cases, or it'll provide some light on something that you haven't seen before. So it'll be quite an experience. So I'm going to have Santbir Singh join us on screen to talk through and reflect on today's Hookum.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. It's so wonderful to see you all. Thank you for joining us here today. This is a Hookum from Darbar Sahib, from Harmandir Sahib, from this morning. And it's really a really powerful Hookum from Bhagat Kabir Ji. Really just one of those Hookums that almost feels like a slap across the face, really, from Bhagat Ji. It's a Hookum that talks about something that is hanging over all of our heads at all times. And sitting here on this sort of dreary Toronto, I'm in Toronto, and it's a rainy, gray day, and so this Hookum feels quite perfect for the atmosphere. I'm not sure what the weather is like where you are, but that's what the weather is like here in Toronto. And Bhagat Kabir Ji says in Ragasa, Jab lag tel dive mukhabati tab suje sab koi. tel jale bati therani sunna mandar hoi. Re bore tu he kari na rakhe koi, tu ram naam jap soi rahao. Kaki mat pita koho kako, kavan purkh ki joy. Kat phutte ko baat na puche, kado hoy. Dehri beti mata rove, khatia lege pai, lat chitkaye tiriye rove, hans akela jai. Kehet kabir sunore santo, pe sagar ke tai, is bande sir julm hot hai, jamne hate gusai. So that's the hukam that we received from Harmandir Sahib this morning. And let's go through this hukam in a little bit of detail, really trying to understand what Bhagat Kabir Ji, what Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is trying to tell us here. So there's a couple of very powerful metaphors used in this hukam, and these metaphors are used for the human body, for the human being. The first metaphor that's used is of a candle and a wick. Jab lag tel dive, or a lamp, sorry. Jab lag tel dive mukhabati tab sujje sab koi. That as long as there's oil and a wick in the lantern, there will be light. But as soon as the light goes out, then it's dark in the house. Tel jale bati therani sunna mandar hoy. Then it becomes dark in the mandar, in the house. The house here is the body, the mind, the consciousness. And what Bhagat Ji is saying here is that when there is light inside, when we are animated, when we have our jot, when we have our Jiv Atma animating our body from Akal Purkh Vaheguru, then our body is full of light. However, once that light is extinguished, once that Jiva Atma leaves the body, once the body becomes dead, then everything goes dark. And what happens when the body goes dark? Let's look at the second pori. Kaki mat pita kaho kako, kavan purkh ki joy. So you don't ask at that point, who's your mother, who's your father, who's your spouse. All that happens when your body is dead, kat putte ko baat na puche. People don't ask questions. They just say, kado hoy. Please move this body out of here. Get this body out of the house. So when a dead body, when someone dies in our house, we want that body out of the house as soon as possible. It creeps us out. It scares us. It confuses us. And the thought of having a body there is terrifying to us. And so we want that body to be gone, to be removed from our house as soon as possible. So that person that we once loved, that we once cared for, who may have been our mother, our father, our spouse, that person now is just a dead body, and we want that body out of our house as soon as possible. And when we die, this is also another very important point that Bhagat Kabir Ji makes in the second line of the third pori. Lat chitkaye tiriye rove hans akelle jai. The hans means swan, and here the hans is referring to the Jivatma, the aspect of Vaheguru that is contained within us all. That once that aspect of Vaheguru is removed, once that Jivatma is gone, then we are, and when it goes by itself. It goes in a very lonely fashion. You don't die with other people, you die by yourself. It's a very lonely sort of experience dying is, Bhagat Kabir Ji is telling us. It's not something that other people can be there for you or with you. It's something you have to undergo yourself, by yourself. So this Shabad is using some pretty strong metaphors, some pretty clear language. And let's take a look at the Rahau line. Re bore tu he kari na rakhe koi, tu ram naam jap soi. So Bhagat Kabir Ji is talking to us and he calls us bore. Bore means crazy or mad person. Why are we being called mad? Why are we being called crazy? We're being called crazy because we think that this body that we have is permanent. We think that this life that we have, these possessions that we have, these relationships that we have are permanent. We think that everything around us will last forever. We're in this deluded state. Bhagat Kabir ji is telling us, you're in a deluded state. I'm in a deluded state. And the only thing that is worthwhile, the only thing that will be of benefit to you, the only thing that can transform you is Duram Nam Japasoi, is if you jap, if you concentrate on, if you make a connection with, if you build a relationship with that Ram Nam. And what is Ram? Ram is a word for Vaheguru that means to be immersed in all things, in equal amounts in all things. So it's the aspect of Vaheguru which means that it's everywhere surrounding us, all around us at all times. Meditate on that Ram, because when you meditate on that Ram, when you build a relationship on that with that Ram, when you develop a connection with that Ram, then the fact that your body may turn to dust or will turn to dust, that your Jivatma will leave your body, that's not really such a scary thing anymore, because you are part of something much bigger, something much more beautiful. You're part of something much greater. And let's look at the last line very quickly. Kehet Kabir sonore santo pe sagar ke tai, is bande se julam hot hai, jamne hate gusai. Is bande, this person, there is this torture that is above us all at all times, and we will never be freed from it. That this jam, the messenger of death or death itself, ne hate gusai, it will never stop. It will always be there for us. So this hukam is really a call to action by Bhagat Kabir ji. It's a call to action to take account of your life, make sure that you are spending your life in a meaningful way, and understand that all of us have to die, and that when we die, our bodies become useless, become something that terrifies those closest to us, and they want us gotten rid of. They want us out of the house. They want us far away. That the people that loved you will be like, no, get this dead body away from us. We don't want to be around it. So that's the sort of call to action that Bhagat Kabir ji is asking of us here. How can we build a relationship? It's by concentrating on Ram, by understanding that Vaheguru is immersed in all things and developing that relationship with Ram. And that happens through the Guru. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is through the being of Guru Nanak Sahib ji, the founder of our tradition, of how we can build that relationship, and what Guru Nanak Sahib ji gives us, what Guru Nanak Sahib ji builds for us, what Guru Nanak Sahib ji develops for us, that allows us to go past this fear of death that hangs over all of our heads. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over now. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh.
Thank you so much for that reflection. I think, as Santbir Singh has just said, that this is something that, and this is also what happens at Civic as well, where we take the Hookum first to start, because we are starting with the Guru's words, and this leads us throughout our day. And so as you go through today's presentations, you will find those moments where you're connecting back to this Hookum, and think about how this applies to your life. It applies through the day. And then as we close out today, if you want to take a note of this Hookum and think about it at the end of your day and see how this has impacted you, how you have allowed this to become a part of your reflection for the day and your understanding of a little increasing your understanding and your connection to Vaheguru as well.